Is this thing working? Give me some sound over here.
Yeah.
The Out of Bounds Show is powered by the award-winning golf courses at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
And the College Football Playoff Committee dropped their first set of rankings. We'll see how it looks here over the next few weeks and month. You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, powered by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook. Bet $50 there. Play Dancing Rabbit Golf Club for $30. The Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook. Want to welcome in our friend. I love doing this. College football insider, Dave Bartoo. He's an insider like Ralph Russo. Dave Bartoo at
Dude, he stopped following me. He stopped following me.
Well,
oh my God, dude, we were like Twitter buddies, right? We'd exchange ideas, and I give him stuff and this, that, and the other. And then I had no idea he was so involved with the AP ranks. And I guess me telling everybody that the AP ranks are effing worthless.
Yes,
obviously they are. He finally stopped following me. It's totally funny, dude. I'm like, oh my God, would you like some snowflakes with that wine? Lord.
And he and his industry define snowflakes. That's fantastic. Ralph Russo, look, if you've listened to this show the last 17 years, I had to be one of the first covering college football to absolutely torch and laugh at the AP poll. It has lied and fooled people post-World War II until today, and it will this weekend when they do the rankings again. But anyway, Dave Bartoo on the Abita Pecan guest line. Bartoo, what was... You watched it. You've been tracking this. It was a little bit different model. You either have your brain wrapped around it now, or you'll need one more drop of rankings. But what was your one big takeaway around the top 5 or 5 through 8?
Well, okay, 1 through 8. Well, 1 through 4 were nailed, right? I mean, it was just dead on. And A&M was at 6. Florida was at 7. They were at 5 and 6. So, I mean, I get that, okay? But where it went really, what the hell, was Cincinnati at 7 and Northwestern at 8, okay? Because there's a lot of reasons to it, but I've gone through the numbers. I can't find a pattern, a logical pattern for the rankings at all, okay? And I don't know the best way to break it down in terms of where, the ranking of the teams. But I was trying to listen to what Chairman Bartoo was saying last night. Last night wrapping up the games, or the rankings. And here's a quote from him that I really gravitated to, because I can try to put numbers to it. And this is comparing BYU to Cincinnati. All right. Now, keep in mind, Cincinnati is ranked one spot behind the Florida Gators. Okay. And here's his quote. So listen carefully to this. BYU has played 3 games against 500 or better opponents. Okay. So remember how I always talked about quality wins are important?
Sure.
Quality win is only a team above 500 in the FBS. It doesn't matter if it's Alabama or South Alabama, as long as they're above 500. So BYU has played 3 games against 500 better opponents, but when you move over to Cincinnati, they're 4-0 against 500 teams. Ooh. And this is where it gets totally juicy. Cincinnati is top 20 in both scoring offense and scoring defense. Those are some of the differences as we took a look at it. All right? So, and that is true. His statement, what he said is true, okay? 4-0 and 3-0 against quality opponents, all right? Cincinnati is top 20 in scoring offense and scoring defense. Now, I would argue that scoring offense and scoring defense is a really stupid stat to look at because it rewards teams to play up-tempo offense, Okay? We saw, for example, North Carolina under Larry Fedora put up a ton of points, but they had to do it with 100 plays a game. They were massively inefficient and lost all the time. Why? Because they weren't efficient at it. Yeah, the points look good, but they weren't very good themselves. The flip side was the Army defensive coordinator. Whoa, defensive coordinator of the year. Look at his defense numbers. He hardly allowed any points. Yeah, because he faced 30 plays a game because of the way you run your offense. So I'm a little bit more inclined to go into a something per something, points per something, points per drive, points per play, adjusted for talent on the field, blah, 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 you name it. Okay, so I look at scoring efficiency. Now, when you turn on my filter for scoring efficiency for Cincinnati, they are not top 20 in offense and defense. They are number 11 in offense and number 12 in defense. They're even better than what he's saying. But what about BYU? Oh, BYU is number 2 in offense and number 10 in defense. BYU, in fact, is the number 1 scoring efficiency team in the entire country. So then the next thing has to be, well, who'd they play? Maybe they played a really tough schedule, like Arkansas. Did you know Arkansas's average recruiter faced? The ranking of the average recruiter faced by Arkansas, and it will never get worse than this ever in the history of college football, 11.8. Arkansas suits up against a top 12 recruiter on average every freaking Saturday. Florida, right ahead of Cincinnati, average recruiter faced, 26.2. Top 25 recruiter every single Saturday. BYU, average recruiter faced, 92.1. So it only would say that, oh man, Cincinnati's average recruiter face must be got to be close to Florida, right? No, 83.6 is the average recruiter Cincinnati has faced. Now process that. BYU at 14, average recruiter faced 92. Cincinnati at 7, average recruiter faced 83. Florida at 6, average recruiter faced 26. BYU, no top 25 wins. Cincinnati, no top 25 wins. BYU, no Power 5 teams played or beat. Cincinnati, no Power 5 teams played or beat. Now you can say, oh, well, maybe it's the average offense and defensive efficiency of teams they faced. Average defensive scoring efficiency faced by Cincinnati, ranked 75. BYU, ranked 73. BYU has faced a tougher defense on average for the games that they have played. So when Gary says, well, they've beat one more quality team and their efficiency is in the top 20, yeah, BYU's is also in the top 20, better than Cincinnati's. They've basically played the same level of talent. They've played the same level of defensive scoring efficiency. They've played the same level of offensive scoring efficiency. They haven't played the top 25 teams. They haven't beat anybody, and Cincinnati should be down by 14 with BYU not up at 7 with Florida.
Okay.
So that's the sense I made out of that little quote.
Okay, well, what? Clemson, Dave Bartoo on the Out of Bounds show talking college football playoff rankings. He joins us on the Beat a Pecan guest line. You're listening to Out of Bounds, powered by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook. Why is Clemson at 3? So why does Clemson get the nod at 3 over Florida?
It's all about game control there. At least in the first 6 teams, it's all about the previous metrics. It's all the first 6 follow everything they've done outside of Northwestern not being there. It's exactly what they've done before. Okay, and I really feel if they'd have just done the same thing through the whole top 25, what we talked about, what I projected would have been nails. Okay, so the difference with Florida and Clemson, 100%, is the game control of Clemson. Clemson right now, and so we don't even need to talk about game control. You talk about overall scoring efficiency. Right now, Clemson is the second most efficient team in college football at scoring and not allowing scoring. Even though they have one loss, it's Alabama and Clemson and Notre Dame. Those 3 right in the row are the most efficient teams in college football. No matter who they played, they are the most efficient Power 5 teams in college football. So, in my opinion, even in just my opinion, that is an easy ranking. But when you look at what the committee has done in the past, the easy number right to go to is going to be that game control. Strength of schedule, I don't know anymore exactly what they're using. I'm not comfortable with what they were using in the past in terms of what they're using right now. In my opinion, Florida's schedule is much more difficult. Obviously, the average recruiter played is much higher than what Clemson has faced. So I don't think the strength of schedule is that big of a deal, in so much is that Clemson is just better offensively and defensively so far year to date.
Well, would you have been okay if A&M or Florida? I mean, A&M lost on the road to Bama. Florida lost on the road to A&M. Both one-loss teams. I understand
right,
Clemson lost on the road. But
Oklahoma lost to Iowa State, and they're ahead of them.
Yeah. So would you have been okay with A&M or Florida at number 3?
Not A&M.
Okay.
I couldn't put A&M there.
Could you put Florida there and be okay with it?
I could be. I could put Florida at 27 and be okay with it too, because Florida just wins out and they're in. That's all anybody ever. And in the end, you got to remember, all anybody ever talks about is the top 4, right?
Right.
You know, if you notice this morning, nobody's arguing the top 4. There's no discussion about the top 4. The discussion right now is Georgia. What the heck? Huh? For some reason, BYU and Cincinnati is still entrancing people, which is, great.
Boring.
But it's boring. Nobody cares. Some poor New Year's Six Bowl is going to get bad ratings because a good brand's going to play Cincinnati and nobody's going to watch it. Like
no
usual.
doubt.
So realistically, there's really nothing to discuss here, because the top 4 is exactly what they've been doing the entire time. You look at Ohio State. They have one top 25 win. They've only played four games. Oregon's played 3, but they're way down in 15. Why? Oh, they haven't played very many games. What? And so here is my simple breakdown of how I view what the committee did yesterday. Number 1, we followed the bullet points. Number 2, we followed the bullet points. 3, did the same thing we've always done. 4, same thing we've always done. 5, Northwestern. Now let's keep them close but moving back, because they haven't played nobody tough. 6, keep what we're doing. 7 or 5, keep what we're doing. 7 or 6, I'm a mess right now, I guess. 6, Florida. Now, status quo. And then everything else was like, oh, the hell with it. Let's go get some drinks. Because I can't make rhyme or reason of it. I've put through every iteration of strength of schedule, games played. I've done everything I can think of to try to have some semblance of coming to a conclusion that it was not just random discussion and picking these teams. And all I got, it was just random. I got nothing that seems to be consistent from team to team. Groups of teams, it was consistent, but one argument doesn't hold water in one instance. So it's just kind of a big mess. But that's 2020, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's really just what 2020 is. It's really just a big mess.
What if Bama loses to Florida and Notre Dame loses to Clemson? So they're one-loss teams.
Yeah.
Which direction does the college football playoff committee go?
Hell if I know.
Yeah.
I mean, really. I mean, at this point, hell if I know. Okay, but if you are rooting for something happening that pisses everybody off, then what you need is Notre Dame to lose a game, or not Notre Dame. You need Northwestern to lose a game.
And they will.
You need Ohio State to lose a game, which is plausible with that secondary. Then what you need Florida to beat Alabama and Clemson to beat Notre Dame. Because then what you're likely to end up with is number 1 Florida facing number 2 Clemson and number 3 Alabama facing number 4 Notre Dame. And that would be the juiciest chaos you could think of for this year.
I'll take that.
right?
Yeah.
ACC,
Hell yeah.
SEC, yeah, and Notre Dame's not even an ACC team, but they call them ACC.
I know.
See, that to me is your greatest chaos. But right now, I mean, obviously Florida wins out, they're in. I mean, come on, they're in. And as far as I'm concerned, Alabama's going to be in too, because if they lose to Florida, okay, I get that, but Alabama's still going to have 4 quality wins, which is going to be one of the top numbers, if not the top number in college football. They're still going to have 2 top 25 wins. They'll have beaten Georgia, and they'll have beaten Texas A&M. And their game control, their scoring efficiency is still going to be top 5 in the country. And unless Florida beats them by 100, it's still going to be top 5 in the country. So, to me, the SEC right now, as long as Florida keeps winning, the SEC is positioned for 1 or 2 teams getting in. Now, do I think Alabama's going to lose to Florida? No, I do not. The Florida defense scoring efficiency is in the 50s. So if Alabama shows up, that's what they're going to get beat. Florida is, but this is why we play the games. This is why it's crazy. You never know. A pick six, a punt return for a touchdown, block field goal. Things happen in college football that make us go, why? And then we just laugh because it's so much fun. So you got that, and Clemson, Notre Dame. No reason why they're not playing for a playoff berth there. So realistically, everybody is trying to fight for that number 4 spot. And there's only a handful of teams that, if you look at it, there's only a handful of teams that are gonna be there as well. I know a lot of people are talking about Cincinnati, but I'm sorry, you put a team in the playoffs whose average opponent faced doesn't even recruit inside the 70s, doesn't even out. It's like playing 10 games against a really crappy 20-year-ago Vanderbilt. That'd be like your average game. Man, Vanderbilt recruits in the 50s. BYU and Cincinnati, their average team faced is right now it's in the 80s and 90s. And no top 25 wins. Cincinnati's not going to have a top 25 win. I think it was a huge risk to put Cincinnati that high with such a garbage resume.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Compared to everybody else, okay? I'm not saying Cincinnati's a bad team, okay? They're actually a wonderfully coached, super efficient, awesome team. And if their talent level was in the 20s or 30s, or they were in a different conference putting up these numbers, dude, it'd be the number 1 team in college football. But that's not the case. They recruit in the 60s. That's the other thing. You start looking at the recruiting of these teams. BYU, composite of their sophomore, juniors, and seniors, and you got to throw in the Mormon guys, is number 60 in the country. Cincinnati is 62. Everybody but Kansas in the Power 5 out-recruits them.
Dave Bartoo on the Out of Bounds show and hitting the pod with some college football playoff talk. Do you want to stay on this? Because I want to get his prediction on Mississippi State Ole Miss.
Well, I just real quickly
through his numbers, the
want to
Matrix
understand, Dave, because I asked you this off air
out right now,
and you didn't totally answer it off the air. So I want to get it on air. I said obviously the reason Ohio State's ahead of Northwestern, which was like the biggest anomaly to what we talked about with you on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I said the committee just flat out said we think Ohio State's better than Northwestern. If they play, Ohio State would win. We put them ahead, and you said not so fast, my friend. What numbers do you have that you say Ohio State may not be a top 4 worthy team?
Well, let me take a look really quick at what I was talking about with the scoring efficiencies. Okay, I mean that's really what it comes down to for me is what do I have for scoring efficiencies on these teams. So if I zip down here in the little old spreadsheet to Ohio State in scoring efficiency in the country is 23rd. Ohio State's defensive scoring efficiency is 74th.
Good grief.
Okay. So in comparison now, they've only played 4 games. All right. But let me try to find a SEC team that NC State is 81st. Michigan State is 72nd. Liberty is 70th. Georgia Southern 67. I'm trying to find the SEC team here. Anyways, I think you're feeling what I'm laying down with this is that their defense is just not very good at all. A&M is 95th.
I had no idea Ohio State's defense was that bad.
A&M is 95th?
Texas A&M is 95th in defensive scoring efficiency.
So Ole Miss
God,
would have
they're
boat
going
raced
to lose
them,
to Ole
right?
Miss if they play. Wow. Okay.
Oh, you didn't even want Ole Miss. Ole Miss might be off the chart. I don't know if my Excel spreadsheet goes down that far. Ole Miss is 107th.
Goodness gracious.
But you got to put it in the context, though. What did we just talk about? Look who they're playing. You know, I mean, the idea that BYU could take Texas A&M's place and still put up these numbers and be that strong is ridiculous. BYU in any one of the, or Cincinnati, they would be the worst recruiter in either division. In fact, they would be the worst recruiter in any division in college football outside of Kansas and the Big 12. Okay, so could they beat one of these teams on any given Saturday? Absolutely. Look, lightning strikes in a bottle. Things can happen. There's no forever. There's no impossible. But to think that a team that recruits in the 60s could walk into the SEC West or the SEC East or any other of these conferences and even come close to putting up these kind of numbers without the depth, that's the thing. They are going to get beat to hell in these conferences. Playing in the SEC, I'll give you an example of how much it hurts to play in the SEC. Okay, if you play in the SEC, your odds of losing a start to injury are 300% bigger than if you played in the Group of Five conferences. 300% bigger losing starts to injury if you play in the SEC. So you take somebody like a Cincinnati, a Boise, a UCF, a BYU, their frontline guys, yeah, they may be as good. Well, I'll even give that to you. Yeah, their starters are as good, but you ain't going to have them at the end of the year. You ain't going to have the depth. By the end of the year, you are going to be beat to hell, and you are not going to be the team you are today. And so to me, that's ultimately the big difference nobody ever talks about is the physicality difference between SEC, the Big Ten, the Power Fives, and the G5s, because it is right there on paper.
Dave Bartoo on the Out of Bounds show. All right. Rivalry week. Let's segue here. Speaking of the Matrix, talent, location, coaching. Mississippi State at Ole Miss.
Mississippi State at Ole Miss. Well, you know something. Let's look at the efficiency numbers because right straight down to it, from a talent perspective, I'm just going to say it's even.
Sure.
You know, Mississippi State year to date. On total team scoring efficiency, the edge is to Ole Miss. Okay, this is going to be an interesting game just from the standpoint of you talk about your yin and yang. You have a really good offense so far this year in Ole Miss. You have a good defense at Mississippi State. You have a poor defense at Ole Miss. You have a poor offense at Mississippi State. So where's that game played? Is it being played in Oxford?
It's in Oxford.
Okay, yeah. So that makes me feel better that I'll take Ole Miss in that football game. I think Ole Miss is going to win that football game. What's the line on that?
9.5.
Oh, yeah, I'm laying off that. Who knows? I mean, seriously, who knows where that game's going to go? I mean, really don't, because we've seen Ole Miss put up just an absolute truck ton of numbers one game, and then where is it the next? So I do believe Mississippi State's defense, Arnett's done a fantastic job in 2020. Probably the biggest surprise in the SEC for me is him calling plays for the first time against that schedule has been great. And who knows what the state offense is going to do. You know, I caught a little bit of the game, and they were playing hard as hell against Georgia. You know, I don't know who is that one guy, that Kraft guy. God,
yeah,
he's hitting some guys. That was cool. I was like, oh, big hits. I don't know anything about it, but it seemed really cool at the time. And then Ole Miss. If the Ole Miss offense shows up, we know it's going to happen if the real Ole Miss offense can show up. That can be dangerous too. So I'm excited about the Egg Bowl because, quite frankly, I don't know what direction it's going to go because the numbers aren't pointing me. It's very wobbly looking at the numbers.
All right. Dave Bartoo on the Out of Bounds show and the Abita Pecan guest line. Let's segue to something else. Thanksgiving lunch or dinner? Are you more bourbon or beer with Thanksgiving, either lunch or dinner, whichever one you do, or both?
Well, I'm in the Pacific Northwest. There ain't much bourbon out here. Nobody really drinks bourbon. You know, I mean, if it's brown, it's going to be whiskey.
So it's more wine and beer country.
It's wine and beer country, man. Dude, I have 11 wineries within 6 miles of my house. 11. One of them I can walk to. In fact, that's what my wife and I. That's one of our little traditions. Is whenever it snows and nobody's out on the road, we bundle up and it's 1.1 miles up the road in the snow, and they always have a fire going, and you just walk in there, and it's up on this huge hill overlooking the whole valley. And you can just sit there and just watch it snow by the fireplace, and they'll just sit there and pour wine. And I know the people up there, just walk in, give them a good tip, and they'll just keep pouring all day for you.
Oh,
They'll
man.
take like cribbage up there, maybe some Yahtzee, and just freaking hang out, play some card games, dice games, and just watch it snow. It's great.
Now, that sounds fantastic.
It is fantastic.
I'm in on that. Okay, well, is Chef Bartoo, I mean, what's happening here? Are you doing some stuff? Is the wife doing everything? Somebody else? What are you doing?
Yeah, it'll comprise of the basics. The turkey, got to have the mashed potatoes. My mom's stuffing, not inside stuffing. No,
yes, thank you.
No inside turkey bird stuffing.
Thank you.
That's
none.
That is pick your nose and eat your boogers kind of stuff right there. It is stuffing in the pan, but we always use wild chanterelle mushrooms and wild Italian boar sausage in it.
Good Lord. Say that again. Mushrooms and sausage. Say it again.
So like we'll go get chanterelles. So the chanterelles is a wild mushroom that's right up the hill from me. I can go a couple miles.
Okay.
And we can pick chanterelle mushrooms. They're bright orange. And they actually have a little bit of like peppery spice kick to them, but they're wild. You just go pick them right out of the woods. And then the wild boar, I usually shoot one. I go archery hunting for them. I usually get one like every other year. And we always have some of that sausage set aside for Thanksgiving, and it's kind of a spicy Italian boar sausage. So that goes. So it's a stuffing that's heavy on wild mushrooms, wild boar, and then we've got some celery, some other little things in there, and it is the mushroom. Dude, it's mushrooms and sausage. Dude,
No,
you can't go wrong.
No, you can't. It's like chicken and sausage gumbo or whatever. Yeah, I got you. All right, so what beers? So you'll be sipping on a beer tomorrow or two, right?
Yep, kegs tapped. Kegs tapped. That's the nice thing about living in beer country. If you like a beer, and there's tons of them around here. All you got to do, I got my little distributor about 10 miles from the house. I can call and say, get me a keg of Out of Bounds IPA, and they'll be like, it'll be here Tuesday, dude. And
that's cool.
Oh yeah. So what's on tap right now is a Boneyard. It's out of Eugene. Go Ducks. It's RPM, a little heavier IPA. So we got a 6-barrel of that in there, and then we got one of my wife's favorites, this raspberry wheat. It's Raz Wheat by a local brewery right here. Only about a couple miles down the street. I can just go right to their docks, and I got that picked up. So we got an IPA and a Raz Wheat on tap for Thanksgiving.
That sounds fantastic. So Boneyard beer out of Eugene, Oregon, right?
We're tossing some marketing to Boneyard out of Eugene, Oregon, and the Raz Wheat locally here. I can't remember who makes it. It's really, really popular stuff. And then of course it's a holiday. So in the morning, I'll make coffee. I will drop the tailgate on the truck. I will take all of my gin and vodka out there, Bloody Marys and gin and tonics. It's an open bar all day for all the neighbors. The firewood will be down in the cul-de-sac, and I'll just take the portable fire pit, put it out there, put out about 10, 12 chairs, and people just come and go all day. We just drink and have a fire all day. It's great.
That sounds
Share
awesome.
the love. Share the love, folks.
That's great.
Love, not
That's
war.
great. All right. Well, dude, that was good. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope the tailgate fire pit thing is a home run.
Oh, it always is. It always is. I'm sure there'll be a few people in the neighborhood that show up and maybe pull their chair back away from everybody a few more feet this year. But hey, just I'll make a bigger fire.
Dave Bartoo at CFB Matrix on the Out of Bounds Show. Real quick, you mentioned the Patreon. You've got a trifecta Patreon pod out. It's called Trifecta, right?
Yeah, it's a trifecta of my thoughts. I'm trying to do more little short 8, 9, 10, 12-minute pods and just talk about things that pop up on Twitter, questions that people ask me, because I can tweet about them, but they disappear so quick and nobody, I started getting a lot of people. It's like, where can I go to get all this stuff besides trying to scroll through all your Twitter stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, maybe I just need to take the key things and make a quick podcast. So this week I did one on Tom Allen and his recruiting ranking and how Tom Allen, his wins and loss behavior is almost exactly the same as the best coach in Mississippi State history. What else did I have to go into? Went into the
That'd be
little
Dan
BYU,
Mullen.
Yeah, and we go BYU.
Not Joe Moorhead.
Washington. not Sylvester.
Sylvester.
and then.
I've got something for you. I've got something for you.
Yeah.
All right, so his Trifecta pod is on Patreon. Blake, you may have already hit this, but Blake scratched around and basically came up with, for the last 20 years, SEC coaches that are hired with no head coaching experience for the most part.
Oh, I saw Brad tweeted that out.
Yes.
Brad Rowland.
Yeah, dude.
Brad Crawford, I thought.
Oh, was it Crawford or Rowland?
Yeah.
It's. I think he's with Saturday Down
Crawford,
South.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was Crawford, because Crawford has been blowing me up because he is freaking out that they're considering hiring a Shane Beamer non-experienced, and he's just and everybody's like, well, it's part of Spurrier. He's gonna bring good old days back. I'm like, well, Ellis Johnson's part of Spurrier too, bro. So careful what you wish for. Anyways, go on your stat. It is a cool stat. Pop that thing, baby.
Yeah. So 20 years, other than James Franklin and Dan Mullen, for the most part.
17 first-time head coaches. 10 have been fired within the first 5 seasons. 3 are still coaching. And then
Sylvester Croom, Ed Ogeron at Ole Miss, Joe Moorhead. I mean, there's a long list here. Will Muschamp a couple of times.
And then
once
only Franklin, Vanderbilt to Penn State, and then Mullen State to Florida left their school for a better job.
How about that, Bartoo?
371 and 399, I think, is the total record of those 17 coaches.
Right? Yeah.
And I would bet Mark Richt has most of those 371 wins, if I had to guess.
No kidding.
Oh, probably. He had no experience coming in, huh? I don't look that far
Florida
back.
State.
Where did he come from?
He was Bobby Bowden's offensive coordinator, Bartoo.
Oh, okay.
For like four
that
seasons, yeah.
That makes sense, in some ways. I just think with the group of 5 talent pool of head coaches is as deep as it's ever been. And when you consider how many job openings there are right now, to pass on Heupel, I mean, that name isn't even associated with South Carolina. To pass on, Fickle, you got Chatwell, you got Napier. There's guys all over the place that are solid. Even the B guys, Tulsa and Tulane head coaches are really good. To bring in a guy that has never hired or fired, has never called a play on offense, never called a play on defense, never been a head coach, none of this stuff, to bring that into the South Carolina environment, I think that is suicidal.
We'll leave it there. Dave Bartoo at CFB Matrix on Twitter. This is what's going to be fun about having Bartoo on over the next few weeks, all the coaching carousel talk. And not just that, but when Ed Ogeron fires Bo Pelini, I mean, it's just going to be content for days. So I can't wait to roll through that in December and January. All right, buddy. Enjoy your Boneyard beer from Eugene, Oregon, and enjoy your turkey and dressing.
It's going to be good times. Hey, everybody out there listening, happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Love all of you for listening. And you too, Blake, Bo, thanks for having me on, brothers.
See you, dude. Happy Thanksgiving. Dave Bartoo on the Out of Bounds podcast, powered by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook and award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Thanks for listening to Out of Bounds. Don't forget, Out of Bounds show Monday through Friday, 7 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and the Out of Bounds radio app.